Good evening, everyone. If we could, let's start with a moment of silence and reflection. Thank you very much. We'll officially call the meeting to order. And welcome to all of you. I see some new faces, I believe, in the audience tonight. And those of you that are familiar with the process, and those that are not, recognize that in the back of the room, this corner on the table, are documents reflecting the things that will take place tonight, the agenda and so forth. Help yourself to find what you need and are interested in on that table. Item number 3 on the agenda is a Pledge of Allegiance. Let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag on my right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Number 4, we're going to consider the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I've got a proposed change, requested change. We've received guidance from FEMA today that's going to necessitate us doing some more surveying. Item ordinance number 1918 that's currently on the agenda at
12A.
13.
It's number 13. I would request that it be the budget amendment amount. We can do this one of two ways, either by removing 13 and substituting with the memo that I've provided to you. I would suggest that the memo, along with the proposed budget amendment, just be appended to item 13, and we can discuss exactly how to do that. Basically, the budget amendment goes from $4,600 to $30,000.
Is there a motion to approve the proposed agenda with the amendment Mr. Hewitt has asked to be added?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. It's unanimously approved. Number 5, consideration of the minutes for October 11, 15, and 15, and 29. Is there a motion to approve these as a whole?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to point out a couple of changes that should be made in the minutes. On page 7, paragraph 2, line 6, manner should be changed to matter.
Okay, which minutes are you talking about?
That's page 7 in our agenda package.
In an agenda package, all right?
Okay. So on page 7 in the agenda packet, manner should be changed to matter, M-A-T-T-E-R. On page 20, advocate should be changed to abdicate. And on page 21, say should be changed to says.
Motion maker and the seconding party agree to those changes?
Yes, sir.
There is one additional, if I may, and it's simply a typo that happens to be a homonym, but on page 24, public comment with respect to special meeting agenda items, the second line, waved around, it should be W-A-V-E-D, wave, like wave a flag, not wave to wave like a motion or something.
I missed that.
Motion maker and seconder
Yes, sir.
agree to that?
Yes, sir. Good.
All in favor of the motion as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It's unanimous, Madam Clerk. All the minutes in 5 are approved as amended. And now we go to number 6 on the agenda, the public comments. On agenda items, I have none on my list. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll go to number 7. Mr. Hewitt?
Yes, sir. This is the presentation of a Smart Rural Community Award to the town of Holden Beach. Victoria Bellamy is listed on your program tonight, but Keith Holden, the CEO of Atlantic Telephone, is here. Yes. And if you come on. Now, exactly what he's going to do, I don't know. This is as far as I got.
Well, it's not gonna get much fancier than this. So, I'm Keith Holden, I'm the CEO of Atlantic Telephone, and excited to be here tonight to present. I have two signs. I think we've stored one in the corner, and I've got this from, the handoff. But, the Smart Rural Community Award is a designation by the Rural Broadband Association that we're members of, and they are associated with over 800 companies around the United States. And as part of the work that we've done here on Holden Beach, upgrading our existing network with fiber optic solution, Holden Beach now qualifies as a smart rural community under our association with the Rural Broadband Association. So really excited about that. I mean, also personally want to take the time to thank the town commissioners, to thank Mayor Holden and David Hewitt and his staff. I don't know if you remember meeting with me, it's been over a year ago now, when we first started talking about it, but it was a very large project, and it took the support of the town and a lot of effort, and we certainly appreciate it. So we're excited to be here to award this.
And in case we were apt to forget, the Public Works Director reminded me about every third day on, well, they hadn't hit a sewer line yet, so he's been worried about it, yeah.
Every day I went to work saying, I hope they didn't hit something.
And they didn't. They did good. It's great.
I think overall it was a really smooth project, and I think a lot of that was a testament to your staff. So,
And we would like to take a photo, so if someone or all of you would like. to
Everybody.
Let's everybody get up front.
you all did a good man, you guys.
All right, everybody smile, I'm gonna fix several. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks, Bob. We appreciate it. That is yours.
Yeah, we will put it in some good place.
And I think there's another one.
All right? Thanks so much.
John, that's mine. It's okay.
Looks just like mine.
It did. Well, except you have a coat on.
Nice sign. Mr. Hewitt, are you still up?
Yes, sir. We've
Right.
got Jay Sharp with Rives and Associates with the presentation of the fiscal year 2018-2019 audit results. Jay?
Good evening. As David said, my name is Jay Sharp. I'm the audit partner in charge of the town's audit for the year ended June 30th, 2019. So I got a short presentation. The first part's going to concentrate on the audit proceedings and results. The second part's going to concentrate on the numbers, a few graphs, concentrate on the numbers reported in the financial statements for the year ended June 30th, 2019. So status of the audit, field work has been completed. We're on location back in the middle of September. Completed our field work then. The financial statements and notes have been prepared. They are currently in draft form. They have been submitted to the town. The audit was submitted to the local government commission. The local government commission approved the audit with no changes. That was done before the October 31st deadline. There are two deadlines with the local government commission, the first being October 31st, then you get a 30-day extension. But we did get the audit into the LGC by October 31st, and they have approved with no changes. So the only thing we're waiting on is the town's approval and the assigned management rep letter, and then we can issue the audit for June 30th, 2019. Roles and objectives. I went over these last time when I presented the audit, and they haven't changed, but just a little bit of understanding. So we don't just come in and start looking at the numbers. There's some things we do ahead of time before we come out in field work, and some things we do during field work before we start actually auditing the numbers. They're planning procedures. And so we're going to gain an understanding of key internal controls in place. We're going to test some of those controls. This year we tested payroll, controls over payroll, and we tested controls over cash disbursements. From the results of our testing controls and from our understanding of key internal controls in place, we're going to perform what you call a risk assessment. So we're going to assess risk to all the major financial reporting parts of the town's financials, whether, for example, cash, receivables, revenues, expenses, etc. Those risks can change year to year, but we're going to concentrate our audit procedures on the higher risk areas. We will touch all the areas, but we're going to concentrate on the higher risk areas. And so we're going to perform audit procedures to gain sufficient evidence to render an opinion on the financial statements. That's why you hire us, is to give an opinion on the financial statements, whether the financials are materially correct or not. This is a reasonable assurance, not absolute. To be absolute, we'd have to test every transaction, and I don't think anybody wants the auditors here for that long. We'd probably be here for a good 6 months. We'd test every transaction. So it's a reasonable assurance. The reason you hire us is render opinion on the financial statements. No single audit was required for 2019. If you expend federal funds greater than $750,000, you're required to have a single audit. For the last 2 years, you do not have a federal single audit. So the results of this year's audit. Scope and timing of audit were on track. Like I said, we did submit to the LGC before the October 31st deadline. As a result of our audit, we issued what you call unmodified opinion on the financial statements. So that's the best possible opinion you can receive. If there's any major issues with the town's financial situation, the first place you'd see it would be in the opinion. As I said, unmodified opinion, that is the opinion the town should strive for year in and year out. We did have, as a result of our audit proceedings, have two findings. They are the same findings from last year. We had one material weakness and one significant deficiency, a repeat of 2018's findings. As a result of our audit procedure, we did have 3 recommendations in a management letter to kind of secure up internal controls. These are not findings, or these are just a separate letter. These are just recommendations for internal control purposes. We did have material adjusting journal entries, and thus the material weakness again for 2019. Some additional required communications for those charged in governance, which is the board. No new significant accounting policy changes for 2019. One of the areas we do key in on when we're looking at audit proceedings are estimates. Some numbers are hard and fast numbers. For example, cash, you know what cash is, but some things are estimates. And so all the estimates we looked at appeared reasonable. I'm happy to report we had no disagreements with management. No significant difficulties encountered during the audit proceedings. Like I said, we were able to get the audit in a timely fashion and submit it to the LGC by October 31st. So the next few slides are going to concentrate kind of the results. We do have comparative graphs for the last couple of years on some of these slides. So the first thing we look at is the general fund summary. Blue represents revenues and red represents expenses for the last 3 years. First thing you'll note is blue's higher than red. And so the town has had a very nice general fund results for the last 3 years. The revenues have outpaced your expenses each of the last 3 years. The next is your total governmental funds. Once again, revenues outpaced your expenditures in the governmental funds. These are total governmental funds. Last 2 years, you did have a loss in this fund back in 2017. But you did have more revenues and expenditures both for 2019 and 2018 in your total governmental funds.
And Jay, would you clarify for the board that that was primarily the issuance of debt in 2017 associated with the Central Reach project?
Well, yeah, we didn't conduct the 2017 audit. So
Okay, well, I'll clarify it for the board. That's your big special obligation bond debt issuance.
This is kind of a summary of your fund balance. The top is your governmental in red and your general fund's blue. This goes back to 2014. So this is really your assets outnumbering your liabilities, or basically the profitability of the governmental fund and the general fund from the day one of operations of the town through a certain date. As I said, it starts out at June 30th, 2014, and rolls through June 30th, 2019. You see both fund balance for general and governmental have increased since 2014. Indicates a very healthy balance sheet for the town. Breakdown of fund balance. So this is your overall breakdown of fund balance. Your blue, this is for all government funds, not just the general fund. Blue represents restricted funds. The orange is the important one. That's the unassigned, unrestricted fund balance for use by the town. The red is restricted fund balance. So the majority of it is restricted, but you do have over $2 million in unrestricted fund balance, which kind of mirrors your total expenditures for the year in general fund. And so indicates you have a very healthy fund balance in place at the end of June 30th, 2019. A couple calculations. The first one is adequacy of resources for the general fund. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at your cash balance versus your prior year expenditures and how long you can continue operating if you receive no more cash inflow for some reason. So basically cash reserves. For 2019, that's 366 days. So you have a year of cash reserves in place at the end of June 30th, 2019. That is up from 250 days back in 2017. Once again, shows a very healthy balance sheet, a very healthy cash reserve for the town at the end of the year. And this is for total governmental funds, not just the general fund, all governmental funds. End of 2019, your cash reserves were 547 days. That is up from 135 days back in 2017. And this will fluctuate depending on the expenditures in each fund given year, but so once again indicates a very healthy cash reserve for the town. Property taxes. So this is your results of property taxes, your revenues for the last 3 years. It has increased from $2.6 million back in 2017 to just over $2.7 million in 2019. You have not had a rate increase in those 3 years, so you've seen an influx of revenues related to property taxes the last couple of years. Other taxes and licenses. This is majority of it's sales tax, other taxes that the town gets. Slightly down in 2019, but still very healthy, over $2.6 million in other taxes and license in revenue for 2019. And that's well above the $2.3 million back in 2017. So the next two slides are going to concentrate on your expenditure breakdown, basically where you spent your money for the last 2 years. I'll flip it back and forth, but the graph is very similar. The top spending category is public safety at 40% for 2019, 37% for 2018. The second is general government at 31% and 31% for both years, followed by transportation, and then we have debt service. So it's the town's been very consistent in where it spent its money the last 2 years. Water and sewer fund operations. So this results your revenues and expenses for the water and sewer fund for the last 3 years. You did show a loss in 2019. You had just under $2 million in revenues versus $2.3 million in expenses. The 2 years before that, you did show a profit in your water and sewer fund operations.
Okay, and I want to clarify budgetary side of it. This is specifically attributable to the capital project upfit. That's $1 million. That was sourced, which does not show here, that was sourced from capital reserves.
Total was 2.3?
The expenses out of there.
Yeah.
The revenues, of course, were offset. They were pulled to zero that out, is basically what happens.
Going back to the cash reserve calculation for proprietary funds, it did decrease for some reasons that David just mentioned, but you're still at 577 days at the end of June 30th, 2019, so well over a year of cash reserves in your proprietary funds. A few upcoming changes. I think I mentioned these at the last audit presentation for 2018. They have not changed. The leases has been delayed 1 year, but I don't think it's going to have an overall effect on the town's financial reporting. There is a project that's been started overhauling the complete reporting process for governmental. That's just in the beginning phases. It might take anywhere from 5 to 10 years to complete that, so do not expect that in the near term. The big change coming that's effective in the year we're in right now is a change to Yellow Book standards. And that's basically how audits can be performed and how we look at independence. One of the things we have to look at on every audit is, are we independent in regards to the audit? One of the things that can possibly impair our independence has to do with preparing financial statements. And so one of the things we have to look at with all government clients is, does the client have SKEs, or skills, knowledge, and education to oversee the performance of us preparing the financial statements? If we determine that the government unit does not, we cannot remain independent with regards to the audit if we prepare the financial statements. If we do determine that the town does have this SKE, we can still prepare the financial statements, but there's some things we have to do now. For instance, one of the things is the person that on our firm that prepares the financial statements can no longer be part of the audit team. They have to be separate. And a couple other things we can do there. But the big thing is determining whether or not the town has the SKEs to oversee the preparation of the financial statements moving forward. This is a big Yellow Book change. It's going to affect all governments throughout the country. The LGC and sent some memos about this. It's something the town really needs to look at before it engages audit firm for 2020, because they will be looking at whether the town can oversee this process. If it cannot, they're going to find somebody else outside the audit firm to prepare the financial statements. With that, I'll be glad to take any questions you may have on the audit proceedings, the numbers, or anything else.
Jay, I know I asked this last time, and I don't think it was far enough along, but when it comes to firms assessing a municipality's SKEs, has there been any sort of like a checklist or guidance put together of how audit firms are going to rate things so that it's clear and transparent how a decision is made, yes or no?
Unfortunately, this isn't a black and white issue. It's a gray area. So you probably ask 10 audit firms and get 6 or 7 different answers, because it's going to really take some, looking at, previous experience. Like a new audit firm is going to have to interview people inside the town, the finance officer, things like that, to determine that. A repeat audit firm already has probably more knowledge based on that, but there's not a checklist per se. I mean, there's certain things we got to look at, but one auditor might see it differently than the other one. That's been the problem with Yellow Book, and this is why they said, hey, you have to identify preparing financial statements as a threat moving forward, because previously, while it should have been identified, they didn't require it. It's now required to be identified as a potential threat. And so it's not yes-no checklist, but there's a few things that the town should be looking at, specifically at the skills, knowledge, and education of the town finance officer, and whether that person can oversee the preparation of the financial statements. And one of the things the town can do is obviously look at outside consultants.
Any more comments or questions?
I'll make a comment. The condition that you described of the town having the money to pay for its bills, having a year's worth of expenses already in the bank, that's a change that the town has done over about the last 4 years, a specific move to do that, and it's done a really, really good job of coming from a couple of months covered to now a year covered, and that was the board's desire. We set a goal of 40%. The town exceeded that well beyond that to now being at a year's worth, which means that if we lost the rental income of $2 million a year, we'd still have a year's worth of expenses to protect us until we got recovered from whatever the crisis was that put us in that position. So well done to the town for all they've done to bring us up to that kind of, now we're equal to a lot of other really strong communities, not one of those the LGC would look at as being in danger. And we have some big towns now being looked at very carefully by the LGC that they're getting really low and they're not protected, but we're really well protected right now. And kudos to the town for getting that done.
Any more comments or questions? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Ferguson?
Do we?
Yeah, we.
Mr. Mayor,
You want a motion?
I know that there was an action by the audit committee today, and Mr. Fletcher, would you like to cover that as the chair?
Are we okay with that?
Hold on, Ms. Ferguson. Apparently something happened I didn't know about.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. The audit committee met this afternoon and had a presentation and a chance to question the audit, study the audit report, the financials and everything. And at the end of the meeting today, a unanimous decision that they would recommend to the board that they approve this audit as issued. And with that, then the auditor can in fact publish that as a final document. So I make the motion that the board approve the audit report as presented.
Is there a second?
Second?
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It's unanimous. Anything else?
Yes, sir, that's it.
Anything else, Mr. Hewitt?
No, sir.
Anything else, anybody? All right, we'll try you again, Ms. Ferguson.
Sir. Good evening. Last year, our race company, Coastal Race Productions, made some requests of the town, and you guys honored those requests. It was to place a banner at the base of the bridge ahead of the race to allow vendors in terms of major sponsors. For example, when the racers are at the event, they can buy race gear, that kind of thing, that were sponsored for the event. And a beer garden in which each runner got one beer ticket if they were of legal age. And that was in a particular area which was outlined in the agenda packet. It was on a trial basis that you guys did that last year. You were gonna look for feedback. We did not, I just spoke with the police chief, we did not have any negative feedback as far as anything that we know that occurred that was bad. I did attend the event and watched the beer garden area last year. It seemed to go well, so the race company is here again this year to request the same things for this year's race. And they have already paid their event fee for this year, just in case that was a question later. This is Jonna.
Jonna Taragna with Coastal Race Productions, and I'm happy to take any questions or answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Is there a motion?
So, yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the permit request as indicated for a banner and allow vendors for one free beer ticket at the Run Holden Beach event.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
Congratulations.
It's unanimous. Have a great event.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chief?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Very happy to report that November, our October report, there's not a lot going on in the world of public safety right now, which is very good. We're taking the opportunity to catch up on our mandated in-service training. The state requires all officers to go through certain blocks of in-service training, so that's mostly what we're doing right now, going through our in-service, spending some time on the range, qualifications, things like that. If you have questions about any of these numbers or anything I can help you with, comments, concerns, I know we spent the last few meetings talking about golf carts and hunting and everything else, but if there's something new that's come up, if you've got questions, comments, or concerns, I'll be glad to answer them. All right.
All right, thank you,
Thank
Chief.
you.
Is it gonna snow?
I hope it doesn't snow.
Yeah,
I don't want any snow.
Ms. Pat? Number 11.
Okay. It was sometime last summer, July or August, that I actually raised with the board whether it might not be a good idea to have a more formal way of giving direction to boards and requesting, in some cases, that we have actual reports prepared that support the recommendation that comes from a board. Everybody sort of said, yeah, that would be something that you could put forward. I was supposed to deliver it in September. The hurricane kind of got in the way, and then I apologized, but October I've had some family health issues, so I couldn't get with the staff. I'd like to thank the staff for actually working with my proposed first document and turning it into something that was a bit more professional and appropriate. I am putting this directive, this proposed directive, into the package so that there is ample opportunity for the public and for various board and committee members to be able to look at it before the next meeting and give their opinion, give their comments. So I am not proposing that there is any actual action or activity on this time, but I would like it to be out there so that people have a chance to carefully look at it and to give their opinion. And if any of the commissioners at this meeting have anything that they would like to note at this point in time about this document, I'm happy to have a discussion. But I think this one should be out there for a while for everybody to have a chance to look at it.
Pat, the only comment I have is, you know, I saw the word opinion in here a number of times. And when I think of an opinion, right, I looked it up, the definition of opinion, and it's a view or judgment formed about something not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. Having the opportunity to serve on a committee, an advisory committee years ago, right, there's a lot of research and analysis that goes into that. And when we presented our information, it wasn't really our opinion. It was what the recommendations were based on facts that we actually investigated and looked into. So we can try to come up with another word of opinion.
I'm perfectly happy to simply call it recommendation
Yeah.
and to strike opinion
That'd
from
be fine.
that and
That'd be
just
fine.
leave it as a recommendation.
Yeah.
I also had one pretty minor recommendation as far as, if you look on number one, we talk about the directive for a recommendation slash opinion, but whatever, from the specific board or committee shall be made by vote at a Board of Commissioners regular meeting. I think that's kind of restrictive because we might get into a position where we have a special meeting that we specifically want to give a directive to a board or committee. So I think that kind of restricts to just the regular meeting. So I mean, if that's what the practice is, that probably, probably a good practice, but I think it's overly restrictive to put it into the.
Would you
into this.
prefer the term will preferably be made?
Sure, just so you're not restricting the board to
Because in-
only do regular meetings.
Because
That's-
in practice, we do try to
Sure.
make it, but that obviously can be, will preferably be made.
Sure. And the other question is this, how is it, what, is this going to be in the ordinance book, or how are we going to, codify this in any way?
We discussed it as a policy. The town staff preferred to state it and call it a directive, but when we discussed it originally, we said this could become a policy that we would follow, so that would be how, at the moment, I would envision it, that we adopt a policy that this directive would apply for making requests for a recommendation to a board or a committee.
Okay, yeah, I mean, just some way to
Yeah.
capture it and,
And it used to say policy but the staff thought directive was a better title, and so that was one of the.
and where are the policies?
They're in there, I
captured?
don't think we have, there is actually a section in the Book of Ordinances that says policy, but
Okay.
I don't think we
Have anything?
really have,
Most policies are kept in the clerk's office, not in the code book. That way, if you'd like to make any changes to it, it's a lot easier than going through the code book.
okay.
The staff kind of perceive this as being an administrative document that would be adopted by resolution and housed with the clerk.
That would be equally fine by me.
Okay, yeah,
However
just-
it's best to
just,
do it.
I think that would allow you to suspend it if the board chooses to on an occasion, to say, we're gonna suspend that policy just for this meeting, and we're gonna do something.
Just
then the
ask-
policy
just-
stays in place.
Just asking where it's going to be captured. Yep. Okay.
Okay. So again, I would simply encourage that this be out for the public to look at, particularly board and committee members, so that they can also feed in their issues, questions, changes at upcoming meeting. So,
Okay. Any questions, comments?
No, I'm good.
You want to continue?
The second form is, again, a more formalized method of making requests to the town manager or town attorney. As I've gone back several times, I found that I leave a meeting and I'm actually going and listening to make sure I understand exactly what we charged the town manager with or asked the attorney to do. And I have a couple times at meetings said, wait a minute, what's the specific ask? I know that different members of town staff and town clerk are often going to the audio and making sure they understand the precise what they have been asked to do. And I think it saves them time and it gives us clarity as well if we reduce to writing at a meeting exactly what is it we're asking. So there's no confusion later, because what's really bad is when the attorney or the manager come the next meeting with something and, gosh, this wasn't exactly what we wanted. So again, I am not asking for an action at this meeting, but it is here for people to be able to look at, the public, commissioners, various people. The staff has looked at it. They might want to look at it again so that we can have a discussion and decide what we should do at our next meeting. But I think again, it helps give precision so we don't have miswork, what I call miswork, unintentional miswork.
So this is for the Board of Commissioners to the attorney.
Or the town manager specifically. When we are doing something here and we say, we would like the town attorney to
Yep.
review and come up with language if there's not proper language in a proposed ordinance, it
Tot-
would be captured very clearly.
Totally agree, especially attorney, because if it's a miss, we're spending money that we shouldn't spend.
Also with the town staff, so that they know clearly what they've been asked to do.
If
Right,
the
right,
town
right.
manager is properly actioned very clearly, then yeah, we don't have staff having to run around in circles, possibly not understanding what's wanted. So this helps staff, this helps the attorney, it helps efficiency, and it controls costs.
And it's a look back to what was asked.
Yeah.
So have you considered applying this, and it's pretty simple, structure around the ask of the town manager and staff to the attorney?
I'm
Putting structure so you can know what is happening when a town manager and staff ask the attorney for a task?
We, normally.
And spend money?
Normally, the tasks are for the attorney because the attorney works for the board. The town staff would not be tasking the attorney directly to do anything. If we needed them to look at a survey or something like that, we can, but that's not the norm. That is, from the staff's perspective, that hasn't been a problem. The problem's been in the attorney and the staff receiving the appropriate guidance from the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, so you're saying that
I'm saying
it
that,
goes through the board, everything goes to the board?
no,
instead of
I'm
goes to the
saying,
attorney?
I'm saying that I haven't had a problem communicating any of my asks from either myself or the staff to the town attorney. Now, we got a new attorney, so I don't know how that'll work out.
Well, as I mentioned, it would be nice to capture that and look back to see the asks of either the board or the staff to the attorney. Just, that's my comments.
Well, it seems to me if there's something that you want that reflects manager staff, I think that would be for David to put together if indeed there is something that's happening at that level. Again, I'm typically trying to represent what we're asking is clear, okay? I don't know precisely how much things come specifically from the town manager to the attorney. I know if there's projects and things, that would be different than the kinds of things we ask. You know, the easement projects and things like that. We still made the ask, but there would probably have been a lot of discussion between the town manager and the attorney. But we still made the ask for the budget.
Sure.
Yeah, so,
Sure.
again, I'm not aware that town staff deals directly with the attorney at any level. David is saying no.
We try not to. Once in a while, the inspector will have a technical conversation with them, but, you know, those result in fees, but I don't think that rises to the level of this document for the board's purpose.
Okay, okay. The other question, this doesn't prevent a commissioner to just pick up the phone and talk to the town attorney.
I would discourage that, to be quite frank with you. You know, we've just been through a litany of almost 2 years now on internal controls of expenses, and any conversation that an attorney has, the attorney's going to bill you for time, and without that, and the attorney is not a town employee. The attorney is a contractor, and by virtue of the fact that the Board of Commissioners controls budget, and it's really the finance officer's responsibility to make sure that things are pre-audited, I can't, in all good conscience, say that I have pre-audited an expense whereby a commissioner's picked up the phone and spent town money. So I would discourage individual commissioners doing that. Now, is that the opinion of the attorney? I have not had that with him. I know our prior attorney encouraged that, but I'm gun shy now with all the focus on internal controls and the requirement to pre-audit. And if I don't know that those expenses are going to be incurred by a commissioner, I'm forced to sign a check that I have not pre-audited, and I am required to pre-audit expenses.
This item may be something that we can discuss with the town attorney. I mean, I had a couple cases, one of which I actually went to the town manager first to ask a question. He referred me to the town attorney, saying that that is something you do need to ask the attorney. So he was aware I was talking to the attorney and was very specific, and I think I did that one other time. But yeah, Noel encouraged us, if we felt we needed an opinion on something before we expended a lot of effort, to please feel that we could call her. I do think that moving forward, we need to have something that allows us to get guidance if we need it. I think that that's something that we'll need to discuss with the town attorney as a board and the town manager, of how we can continue to get that advice when it's necessary. Again, without busting a budget.
And I agree with you. So my question is, this policy is not
This is-
addressing that?
No,
Okay.
this is for when we're sitting here and we're saying we've got things that need to happen by the next meeting, whatever. It's reduced to writing, so there's no confusion, and we don't have people listening to the audio 3 or 4 times trying to get the precise things that we want, because it'll just be in writing.
Right, so it's not preventing what I just
However we
described,
work
right.
that out, no, it's not
Okay.
meant to prevent that.
Perfect. That
It's
was
not
my
meant to
question.
prevent that.
That's my question. Good.
But I do think y'all need to discuss how you're going to
No.
provide yourself with an expense account, if that's what it comes down to.
I think it goes beyond that. I don't see one member of the board having particular rights to go off and have a discussion with an attorney that's gonna charge the town when the entire board hasn't approved that. I would prefer the board tell me to go call the attorney to sort something out, or two members meet with the attorney or whatever, rather than each of the five-member board members be able to march off individually and have conversations that run up the bill on the town. It just doesn't make much sense.
Especially if
If I want
five-
to talk to an attorney, I've got an attorney. I
Yeah,
don't have to talk
especially
to
if
the
those
town
five individual board members each have a different opinion
Exactly.
on what needs to be done.
attorney. Exactly.
And as I said, I think that this is something that we need to sort out, and we can do that at upcoming meetings, how we're gonna operate, but this is a clear. when
Doesn't
the-
address this.
That doesn't address this,
That's my question.
yeah.
Thank you.
So again, this will stay out, no action this time, but just the direction that it will be there for discussion at the next meeting, and hopefully if the public has some comments or concerns, they will bring them so that we can take them under consideration. That's all I have to say.
Any more questions, comments? We ready to go to number 13? Ms. Ferguson?
In your agenda packet on page 37, you have an original memo from me that went out where there was a request for $4,600 to be moved from the capital reserve fund in order to offset the cost for a merit dredge event for navigation maintenance. We did program money in the B part line this year. The $4,600 was the difference that we needed in order to give the reimbursement to Brunswick County, who has already fronted the cost for the project. However, in real time today, we got a call, or actually an email from our engineer with information forwarded from FEMA. And the board received an additional memo when you came in tonight. They are going to require us to do additional surveys for Dorian that go out to depth of closure. That will require not only survey work, but additional engineering from ATM as far as analysis. And based on that information and the fact that we need to start as soon as possible, we think that the number that should be in the budget amendment, based on what we have to work on right now, should be $30,000, which would include the $4,600, as well as money to get us started with the surveys and ATM. We are still talking to FEMA to find out exactly what they need. If we don't need all of that money, once the contracts come in, then we would not spend it all. If we need more, then the board next month would see us back up here. But that's the best working numbers we have based on what we've done in the past when we've been required to do additional work. And if we wait, then that puts us another month, and we're already 10 weeks past storm. So we don't like to throw things on the agenda last minute, but we did just find this out today.
So the ask is twofold?
The ask is twofold. It would be $30,000 total, and that would take care of both projects. The $4,600 original that was on page 39, and the additional work for FEMA that we think is a programming number that's good for now, based on past expenses.
But you're asking us to pass ordinance number 19-18?
Yes. In the amount of $30,000.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 19-18.
Second,
Motion made and second, discussion.
This is such a, an extremely important project to get this sand identified and get it on the beach. Sounds real easy, but it's not that easy. It's very difficult. Has ATM given us any timelines or anything at all yet associated with the additional required analysis and testing?
They have not. It will depend on, I did give the survey company that we used for the initial survey a heads up to see what their timeline was on if they're backed
Great.
up, and they're not. They're ready to go. So once they are done with that, ATM should be able to start turning it around, but we don't have a timeline yet. It basically all happened real time this morning. I know Fran worked really hard on that last year to turn it around pretty quickly, and I think by the end of December, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to go back to look, we were able to submit our second round of reports to FEMA for
Yeah.
Florence Michael.
So the quicker the better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Ready to vote?
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. It's unanimous. Number 14, Mr. Freer.
Yeah, this was left over from last month to, address the situation that the mayor found himself into when he received an anonymous letter. And I noticed the attorney isn't here, so I thought that the best recourse was to ask the attorney for direction as far as how we can avoid, the board, any member of the board, including the mayor, getting information, and that's of a sensitive nature, and what we should do with it. So give some guidance to the board and how to handle that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't speak to the attorney's absence tonight. They got, Mr. Richardson had a prior engagement, and Jennifer actually got caught in Raleigh and couldn't make it. That's on me for not bringing that up, so that's why the attorney's not here tonight.
Yeah, so, we can capture what I'm talking about, and there's places in the ordinance book that, that I would look for the attorney to give us some guidance on, and where the best to capture this issue, and guidance on how to handle the issues that could come up in the future, similar to the one that was a couple months ago.
So you're asking to delay this until a time when the attorney's here?
Or give the direction to the attorney from this meeting.
I agree, we need to do something. In that, but Town manager, do you have any suggestions on how to go forward?
I think you need to leave it over to the next board.
Okay,
Carry it
that's a
forward on the
suggestion.
agenda.
Sure.
Just carry, if you carry it forward on the agenda for December,
Yeah.
then that conversation can be had.
I'm good.
Okay.
You finished? Mr. Hewitt?
The manager's report. Wow. Yes, sir. Update on the Lockwood Folly Ben Widener Navigational Maintenance Project. That contract was awarded the end of October. As a reminder, that includes the Ben Widener option. There has been a pre-construction meeting, but we do not have a work schedule yet. But they're close. Our Central Reach project sand search status. The investigation, offshore investigation, is moving forward and on schedule. The hydro survey and the core borings are done. Now the next step is to get the archaeological survey multi-beam over the next 6 weeks or so. That is, they got a side scan sonar, magnetometer, and some multi-beam bathymetry for the proposed Barra area, which, by the way, is southeast of the Lockwood Folly Inlet. That is a requirement of our permit. And in addition to the bar area, we've got to do the same thing side scan wise for a 500-meter buffer to make sure that there's not any hard bottom that might be fouled as a result of the dredging. That is an additional layering of a requirement by the fisheries agencies. All those things have to happen before we can modify our permit. Update on the FEMA projects that we have in the hopper. Both Florence and Michael have cleared environmental from FEMA and are now with the Office of Legislative Affairs. So that's at the congressional level now. That's so the congressman can be apprised of what's coming down the pipe, and they can get ready for the camera section, the photo ops. before to be released to us, it has to clear the Office of Legislative Affairs. We have been in touch with Congressman Rouser's office accordingly so that they'll know what's coming. Dorian, that project is about $4.6 million. We've held our recovery scoping meeting, or had our recovery scoping meeting with FEMA and the North Carolina Department of Public Safety. That was finished on the 14th of November. Our initial reports have been uploaded into the grants portal with the review process well underway. I know that this was probably not intended to be heard, but Heather actually heard them complimenting the staff on how accomplished we are in this FEMA process. Not something we really want to do, but we got 5 projects underway at the same time in various forms, so we're more familiar with it than we care to be. Lift Station 3 update status. That looks like we'll be ready for advertising bids out shortly before Thanksgiving. Pre-bid conference, the 10th of December, should be receiving bids the week before Christmas, December the 19th, with an anticipated contract award date of January 21st, notice to proceed mid-March, and construction start date March the 23rd, with a 270-day construction period ending December the 18th of 2020, and hopefully we can close that project out the end of the new year. Upcoming town events. The Turkey Trot will be held this Thanksgiving morning, November the 28th at 8 o'clock. Christie says that all of these events require pre-registering, and so you got to pre-register at a different point in time depending on what event you're taking part in. The Turkey Trot request that you bring a canned food item to donate to a local food bank. The tree lighting ceremony is going to be held Friday, December the 6th at 6 p.m. I may not be at that, depending on what the Trojans do in the playoffs, but we'll see. The high school Harmony Show Choir will be performing at 5:30. That event's at 6 p.m. There's also a soup and chili contest prior to the event. Interested participants should also pre-register, dropping their soup or chili by the town hall by 11:30 on Friday, December the 6th, with everything. Just don't bring your chili down and not bring crackers and onions and jalapenos, that kind of thing. So you need to pre-register by December the 3rd. On the day after, Pearl Harbor Day, December the 7th, the Sandy Paws Dog Parade will be held at 10 a.m., and you should meet at Town Hall and walk to Jordan Boulevard Pavilion. Need to pre-register by the 3rd of December. Last but not least, the Community Holiday Luncheon will be held on Friday, December the 20th. The town will provide the meat, and attendees are asked to bring side dishes. So you need to pre-register prior to December the 16th at 5 p.m. You can pre-register by phone, 842-6488. That's all I have.
Any questions? Hearing none. Mayor's comments, thank you all for being here. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. It appears that we're going to have a good number of homeowners here this Thanksgiving, and hope the weather's good to us, and hope everybody has a happy holiday. Mr. Fletcher?
For the newcomers, thank you to the meeting. It helps a lot when the town attends the meeting and actually hears what happens, and then can give feedback to the board as they go forward before they make a decision. But again, also, happy Thanksgiving. Have a great, safe holiday.
Mike?
I say thank you for turning out. It's the best turnout we've had, unless there was some kind of a hot topic that we were addressing up here. So it's good to see more people. And in that vein, I'd like to compliment the town in a whole for the amount of people that actually turned out to vote. I mean, when you think about it, we had maybe 60 to 70% of the town who were eligible to vote turn out. That's an amazing number, so you should be proud of yourselves, and thank you for that as well, and again, have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Ms. Pat?
I can't say much more. Thanks for everybody coming out, and I hope everybody's enjoying the peace and quiet on the island as much as I am. It's really fun to walk and bike right now because we kind of have it to ourselves. So everybody enjoy the holiday, and we'll all have a great December, I'm sure.
Joe?
I'd like to also thank everybody for coming out this evening. Really appreciate seeing everybody, and bring your friends next time to the next meeting too as well. And during the holiday season, I made myself a little note here just to remind myself about all those that are less fortunate than we currently are. Remember those folks during the holiday season, and I wish you folks a very happy holiday. Thank you.
Peter?
Last but not least, I'll add my happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and thanks for coming.
Public comments. Anybody want to say anything about anything, good, bad, indifferent, whatever's on your mind? If you'd like to come to the podium to my right, give us your name and address, and anybody? Not everybody at once. Hearing no one, is there a motion we adjourn?
I make a motion.
Motion made and seconded.
Yep.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye.